Welcome back, everyone. XRP Hober here. Today we're diving into XRP. Before we get back into today's video, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I truly appreciate every single one of you for your support, your likes, your comments, and for sticking with the channel. It really does mean a lot, and it helps this channel continue to grow. Now it's time to give a shout out to our subscriber of the day, Jen Estelle, 1111. Thank you so much for subscribing. I really appreciate your support, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. And if you're enjoying this kind of content and haven't subscribed yet, I'd love to have you along for the ride. All right, with that said, let's get back to today's topic. And I thought this was a great clip because it's never too early to get someone into XRP. Take a listen.
People usually tend to love my story of how I got into crypto because I was so young. I was just 10 years old.
Wow.
And my dad got me XRP for Christmas. He got me a hard wallet and some XRP. And that's kind of my first introduction to crypto. It was XRP. So I was just always following along. Anytime I would make money as a kid working in the yard or any projects, I would go to my dad and say, can I buy XRP? Can I buy XRP? So I've just been following along since 2018.
Wow, that's incredible. You know, I've been in this space since 2017, and it seems like yesterday, but man, 10 years old, been accumulating XRP since then.
And I'm going to say it's never too late to get someone into XRP. Also, I know people that are getting into XRP for the very first time, and they're like 60, 70 years old. It doesn't matter when you get invested. What matters is that you do get invested. But I believe anybody that's even new to crypto, they should just stack while they still can. Because I'm telling you, once the institutional adoption begins, the price of XRP is going to change very quickly. Fed Chair Kevin Walsh says the U.S. should not bail out anyone, including crypto. I didn't know crypto needed a bailout. Usually it's the banks that need a bailout. But he's saying they shouldn't bail out anyone. Well, the banks this time around, they're going to have bail-ins, and we've seen the FDIC talk about that in the past. Do you know what that is? That's when they lock the door at the bank, shut off the ATM, and you no longer have access to your money. None of your transactions go through. But crypto, the right cryptocurrency like XRP that delivers on-demand liquidity can save the banks from the massive liquidity crisis that's still loading. Brad Garlinghouse, what we're doing and executing on a day-by-day basis is in fact taking over SWIFT. Ripple's goal was to dominate the SWIFT network. He has repeatedly said that Ripple will take business away from SWIFT, and of course this is documented. But Brad, he also said that they would capture 14% of SWIFT's business. So was Brad just being Brad when his true intentions are to fully take over SWIFT? But this battle continues on X right now. SWIFT is never going to utilize XRP. It doesn't matter. SWIFT's customers are going to utilize XRP. Yes, Ripple can provide both bi-directional messaging and settlement services for banks using ISO 222. Meanwhile, SWIFT messages are a one-way communication method that prevents transactions from being settled until each party has reviewed them. And that is why it takes so long for a transaction over the SWIFT network. But Ripple provides both messaging and settlement, and that's going to be important for the banks as everything becomes faster and faster, real-time payments and so on. Ripple's technology is patented. SWIFT cannot copy the XRP ledger. Ripple's patents prevent competitors from using similar blockchain networks without permissions. Everybody always thinks SWIFT is going to create their own blockchain and network. You cannot just copycat the XRP ledger. It just cannot happen. That's why Ripple has those patents in place to begin with. But everybody on X, they're like, oh, SWIFT's just going to create their own coin. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. SWIFT has not upgraded anything in over 50 years. SWIFT, we want to work with tech providers inside tokenized environments. This comes directly from SWIFT. Take a listen.
Yeah, I mean, the immediate next sprint for us, and I think it's clear also that it's no surprise to anybody that has been for the full events. We have talked about blockchain and tokenization and digital assets and cryptocurrency, CBDT. So our immediate next sprint concerns proving, not actually exploring, but actually proving in real production a use case that can actually help us to define what could be our main role in different tokenization environments. So do we only play the standards role? Do we want to play something more? So do we want to become more of an Oracle information provider? Do we want to become that super connector between tokenized environments or DLT chains and everything that happens off the chain? I think Mark Smith from CBN was referring to that in the beginning. So we want to work with a number of tech providers, a number of investment banks or financial institutions, and Swift in the middle, of course, to try to see, all right, if we define these 5 or 6 different roles that we can play here, and a few of them have been, I mean, the immediate next sprint for us.
So what he's telling you is Swift wants to get involved with tokenization, but they just want to be the information provider like the messenger. The problem is that they have to work with other networks. They have to work with Ripple. They have to work with Stellar and others. But people just don't get it. They somehow want to believe that there's never going to be a use case ever for XRP, or that nobody is ever going to use XRP. And they're totally wrong. Do you realize if XRP was used to settle even 50, 60, 70% of these messages and these transactions happening over Swift, most XRP holders will never be heard of from again, because they will be off and retired long before that even happens. At 10% of Swift's business, most XRP holders will be able to retire. And that is going to happen one way or another, because Swift needs Ripple and XRP. Ripple and XRP does not need Swift, and there is a Ripple Mafia. Take a listen to this.
Silicon Valley, everything starts from something else. There's a PayPal Mafia, there's a Ripple Mafia, and so we think there'll be a global ID Mafia, and so I've kind of been through some of the.
So what about the Ripple Mafia? And here's a breakdown of it right here. Ripple Mafia. But how did everything begin? Ryan Fugger started developing Ripple in 2004. In 2012, it was turned into OpenCoin by Jed McCaleb, Arthur Brito, David Schwartz, and Chris Larson. A year later, the company was backed by some of the best-known venture funds in Silicon Valley. They include Google Ventures, Peter Thiel, co-founder of PayPal, and Andreessen Horowitz, the company that sold Skype to Microsoft for a whopping $8.5 billion. And then they go on to show you the ties between the Ripple Mafia and the PayPal Mafia. And of course, we know Elon Musk is part of the PayPal Mafia. So that's how all the connections happened over the years. But it even goes beyond that. It goes into President Trump, Clinton, and Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. There's so many ties to Ripple and XRP that people don't even realize it yet. And these relationships go back years. That's why when I tell you that XRP was chosen from day one, it was literally chosen from day one. And while people still argue about adoption for Bitcoin, Bitcoin was the beta test coin for XRP. They tried out Bitcoin, realized all the flaws with it, and then went on to create XRP. But this was destined to happen long before any of us ever even bought XRP, long before XRP was even a cryptocurrency. Some of these connections go back to 2004 and even earlier than that. And here we are now in 2026, and we're watching the entire network come together now in real time. And people are still arguing over whether or not Swift is going to use XRP. Warsh, the Fed is racing to put out the Genius Act rules by Saturday. So they're rushing this now, and this is going to be a problem for Tether. New IMF report confirms assets backing USDT are not compliant with the Genius Act. Eventually, something is going to cause USDT to depay. It's going to happen. It can't pass Mecca, it can't pass Genius, and a lot of countries all around the world, they're either going to go with Mecca-like regulations or they're going to go with Genius Act-like regulations. So Tether is going to eventually be fully regulated out everywhere. So when Tether collapses out, most of the value in Bitcoin is held up by propped up Tether printed out of thin air. So when Tether goes down, it's going to pull Bitcoin down with it. Now, Bitcoin isn't going to go to zero, but it's going to drop in value quickly. It's going to lose about 80% of its value. Now, it will most likely bounce back over time, but I don't think it would ever reach the levels that it's at now. And who knows, maybe this is part of the transition that we're about to watch, where we go from hype and speculation to real utility, because that is right around the corner. But like I always tell you, we're XRP investors. Until it all happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, have a great day. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to join my free Telegram community with the link on my channel, where I post my daily crypto experience and arbitrage opportunities you can't get anywhere else. This is XRP Hobart signing off.